Welcome back to Relatively Credible. We thought we'd have a bit of fun this week and we'll do some more theme park content. But this one, Spencer, I thought we would do the rides that we love at Hollywood Studios, a ride that we think could be improved, and then one that we really don't like.
I dig it. Let's do this.
I'll start with my favourite and then you can go. I think my favourite, I'm sure there's some crossover here, but I think I know what you're going to say. So I'm going to say that my favourite is the Rock and Roller Coaster. I think it's one of the best roller coasters at Disney. This could also fall into that category that with a minor tweak, it could be improved. I think Aerosmith, they could swap it out for any band.
You're not an Aerosmith fan? Is that what you're saying?
I am an Aerosmith fan, but I don't know how relevant they are. I suppose he was on the Voice and stuff like that, wasn't he, Steven Tyler? But I think it's a great roller coaster, and it's one of the few rides at Disney where I still get butterflies in my stomach when I'm queuing for it because of that takeoff.
I think this is going to be an interesting list. I don't think there's going to be quite as much crossover as I thought there would be. My favorite ride in Hollywood Studios is absolutely Tower of Terror. I figured you would know that, especially like the last couple of times we went. Tower of Terror that's a ride where a lot of people don't like to go to because of the drops. It kind of limits a good subset of people, which means that at random times throughout the day, you may have just a really low wait time, and I absolutely love drops, and I also love the Twilight Zone. So I think it's a great ride. I love the theming. I love the randomization of the drops. I think everybody looks forward to going on that ride and trying to figure out their configuration of drops that they're going to experience. I think that's the fun of it. And also, I think one thing that is really cool is it really does change. Your experience changes depending on where you actually sit on that ride. If you're in the front row and you have the bar in front of you, you feel much more secured. But there was one time, I think I was actually with you, where we were in the back in the middle and we felt a lot less secure, and that was super fun.
100%. You're right. My wife will not go on the Tower of Terror. She's never been on it. She doesn't like what it's about. You're totally right. For some reason, whenever I'd been on it, I always had ended up on that front row where you do have the bar bit that you can hold on to. But yeah, being at the back is a completely different experience. And even the one in Florida is different than the one in Disneyland in California Adventure, because that doesn't have where the vehicle separates from the track. It has the pre-show and then you go on it. And of course, that's changed to Guardians now, which they have done a good job of that, except that the Tower of Terror Twilight Zone theme makes more sense than... It's a great ride, the Guardians ride, but it doesn't make sense in the sort of the story, whereas I think the story is told really well and they kept with that original Twilight Zone. I thought you were going to pick that for your first one, but I agree, it's a great ride.
Well, Rock and Roller Coaster is definitely like top 5 ride, I think, in all of Disney World, so it was a hard choice.
Here's my pick for one that I think could be improved. I was gravitating towards the Muppets, but the Muppets is kind of its own thing.
Right.
Really, what I think is the Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. I know this is controversial, but I think it could be improved because to most people who know the Millennium Falcon, they don't think of the newer films. And I grew up in the 80s where the Millennium Falcon was an icon. And honestly, I don't think the ride really that makes that much sense. And the other thing as well, they don't explain it properly what it is. So you'll often get into the simulator, and most people, all the times that I've been on it, is that most people don't understand that they're interacting with it.
Yeah.
They think it's a passive experience and only the buttons do something. But really what you need is people who understand that they're a pilot and they're actually steering it. And people who understand that I forget the name of some crystals, isn't it, that you're trying to harpoon. What I think they should have done with it, I know they can't make it original trilogy, but it would just be so much better if you felt like you were there with Chewbacca and you were doing one of the scenes from the original set of films. I think it could be tweaked to make it better. I mean, honestly, I know people love this ride, but to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The mechanics and the walking into the Millennium Falcon looks incredible. The theming. I don't know what you think on that one.
Let's save that one. I'd like to get into that one in a little bit, because I have a lot of feelings towards Smuggler's Run. But I'll go ahead and skip that. My most improved, the one that I think could be most improved, is Rock and Roller Coaster. So,
really?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as much as I love it, and it's a great ride, and it's super thrilling, and everything about it, it's a little stale. Like you said, it's Aerosmith. Big fan of Aerosmith. They, especially like late 70s, early 80s Aerosmith. Good stuff. They're not the most relevant band anymore. Yeah, even when you walk in to the studio, that needs a lot of updating. Even when you first get inside and it's like the garage, that probably could use some updating. I think my biggest problem with that ride is it's very short. It's a super short ride, even though it's super fun. But every time I get off it, I'm just like, man, this could have been a little bit longer. Otherwise, it's a fantastic ride. But I do think that there's room for improvement there. A facelift, retheme could go a long way.
I don't disagree with you. Because they've got Tower of Terror back there, they could theme that to be more of maybe a horror theme, maybe a movie villains type theme.
100%.
You're right, Aerosmith is perhaps not as relevant, even though they were such an iconic band of the 80s and 90s. Maybe it's not, but the thing is as well is, I don't know which modern band you could replace it with that has the same staying power, because they've been there for as long as, I think as long as Hollywood Studio's been open. So is there another band that has that sticky? If there was another band from the 90s, they're probably even less relevant, I would argue now.
They should just turn it into a K-pop ride. It should be like BTS themed. I'm kind of joking, but I would probably do great. Well, I'm mostly joking, but they would probably do really well with a K-pop, Blackpink, BTS crossover themed ride. That'd be hilarious.
Maybe it could be one that continually changes its theme seasonally.
Yeah.
I'm going to round my pick out with it's not the worst ride by any means. It's not the worst ride. It's the one that I like the least. I'll say it's the one that I like the least there is Minnie and Mickey's Runaway Mine Train or Runaway Train.
Oof.
The movie ride was so iconic. It was dated for sure. The animatronic of Sigourney Weaver, to say it was being mildly insulting to how beautiful Sigourney Weaver is would be an understatement. It was as shocking as the actual alien when the alien comes down, her animatronic, unfortunately. But it fit in with the movie theme, whereas the Minnie and Mickey's ride, they've taken this projection technology, which Disney does so well, and they've just gone to absolute town with it. It's just too much. There's a lot visually going on. Also, I guess I'm an old stickler for... I like the way the Mickey and Minnie cartoons looked back in the day. I don't get the Ren and Stimpy style. They removed quite an iconic attraction to replace it with something that I don't think is necessarily going to hold the test of time. Although they obviously are. I think they're building a Minnie and Mickey's at... I think at Disneyland or one of the other parks, so I'm probably wrong about this, but for me, that's the one that I like the least there.
That's fair. That's a fair choice. I think you're going to get some heat from it. I think it's a really great ride. I actually like that ride a lot, so I was kind of fuming on the inside as you're talking about that ride. I really love that ride. I think my choice for worst ride... and this is obviously not going to be anyone's surprise at this point, is Smuggler's Run. Yeah. It's got so much hype. Like you said, the transition from before you actually get into the cab to actually do your duties is beautiful. The whole theming there. I have some really funny stories about how the cast members have treated us, during that little area right there leading into the Falcon to actually run it. The Falcon on the outside is beautiful. Everybody's taking pictures. It's awesome. It's incredible. The theming before you get in is incredible. Here's my problem with it and why I think it's the worst. If you're not piloting, it's a bad experience, period. All you're doing is you're sitting back there thinking about, man, I'd like to be piloting. And no one can tell me otherwise. If you're a gunner, all you're doing is you're just rapidly tapping the button. If you're in the middle, I think it's engineering, right? Is what they call it. Like you just kind of and then you're distracted from the main thing that you're supposed to actively be paying attention to on the ride, which is the stuff that's happening in front of you. You're getting distracted because you have to push buttons. I can tell you, almost every time I ride it, there's somebody in the back or in the middle seat that is not even actually doing their duties because they just want to see what's in front of them. I think you get gypped. If you're not a pilot, you're getting gypped. If you're a pilot, it's a great time. But even then, there's so much going on where it's over before you know it because you're just hitting buttons the whole time. You're kind of distracted. It's a great ride. Everybody should do it. It looks fantastic. The theming is great. It's just you get a little gypped if you're not in the front seat. Therefore, I think it can't be a good ride if 2/3 of the crew that's on the ride together is not having as good of experience as the other two people. That's why it's my worst pick.
I don't disagree with you. That first part when you're walking into the Millennium Falcon, you look like you're in the movie. It's incredible, the theming of the corridor in there. And then when you actually walk in the first time, you're like, oh, I'm in the Millennium Falcon. And then they give you the little thing saying, oh, you're the engineer and so on. But yeah, you're right. I did the engineer the first time. And you're mashing the buttons like nobody's business. I think if they tweaked it a little bit, it could be something really cool.
What would have been great is if they had just moved if they put a panel or like almost like a tablet in front of you where you were doing the controls, and you're in the seat, like you had to, maybe slide it over from one side to the other, then it's in front of you and you're hitting buttons. So that way your focus could still be in front of you. I mean, you're having to, like, if you're a gunner, you're having to completely turn your body and then you're just missing the whole show.
Everything else is so authentic to the way the Falcon looks, but the gunner position isn't in the cockpit, is it? The gunner position is below.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe if you were a gunner and you got to go into the full swiveling thing.
Exactly, that would have been great.
The whole thing isn't well explained, I think. Those were our picks for the best and worst at Hollywood Studios. Let us know in the comments section down below which is your best and worst, and we'll see you next time on Relatively Credible.